off, we are going to be doing box jumps. And it's an extremely challenging exercise for numerous reasons. It's going to be very physically taxing, requiring your legs to be very powerful. Lots of muscular endurance is required for this exercise. And then also, not only that, but then there's the mental aspect to it. So there's a lot of different moving parts in this exercise. There's a whole metal or whatever you're jumping on to object in front of you where you're like, oh, I don't want to fall, I don't want to bust my shins. A lot of things are going on right now. So a couple tips to make this a successful workout for you is, one, really focus on what your arms are doing with this, because your arms, even though it's a jumping exercise and a leg workout, your upper half is very important for centering your balance, giving you extra momentum. You want to have all the help you can get with this exercise. So one tip is to have your arms doing the opposite of whatever your hips are doing. So if my hips are loading back in this movement to start, to give you more power, your hips are going to be going back. And so if you can see in the video when I'm doing it, my arms are always up and forward when I'm loading up for the movement. And so that's because my hips are back. Once I start the movement, my hips are going to come through and I'm going to get tall during the movement. Then my arms are going back consequently, and that's going to help me a lot with my momentum, my balance, and then also just getting a little bit more oomph into the movement, basically. Another thing that is really important for box jumps is making sure that you are landing soft. So you want to be landing in your heels. You want to be landing in that same loading position. So you're basically going to be squatting once you land onto the box or bench or whatever you're jumping onto. Clam shells, I would say, is one of my absolute favorite exercises for hip health. Everyone needs to invest in mini bands, is my genuine belief. They're extremely inexpensive on Amazon or whatever other gym equipment website you want to get. If you don't have mini bands available for you, you can always up the reps and do the same motion, and it's still going to be somewhat effective. However, I would strongly suggest a mini band for this movement. So for the clamshell, the most important factor in this is one, keep your knees in front of your body, and you're going to be connecting your feet the entire time. So your feet are always going to stay connected in that inner part of your foot. So you're basically going to be pivoting off that in a way. And so with that, one thing I would suggest to anyone that hasn't been doing this exercise before is that you want to make sure that you're not opening up your torso too much. So a good way to avoid that, because you want to keep the movement completely in your hips, is you can always put your hand behind your hip to make sure that it's only your leg that's moving and you're not opening up every single rep, because that's really going to take away from the movement. So I actually found the hollow hold alternating toe touch online when I was doing some research about new exercises that I can give my clients, and I absolutely love this exercise for numerous reasons. Balance, core strength, some of your most important aspects of being a healthy, fit individual. You want to be making sure for this particular exercise that you're not letting your posture crumble too much, and especially focusing on the chest and shoulders while you're doing this. It's very easy in a hollow hold position or anything where you're balancing to kind of curl up and just try and be as small as possible. You want to make sure that your chest is out and your shoulder is back. Keeping good posture, keeping a good spine position is going to actually be really helpful, even though it might feel challenging. In addition to that, you want to try and get your legs as straight as possible. If you have really tight hamstrings, I would most definitely recommend that you roll out and stretch, as you should be doing already. However, especially for this exercise, you want to try and get your legs pretty straight. So if you know that's something that you struggle with, I would highly suggest stretching before and after this exercise as well. So just so you guys know, I did not make up the name bird dog. However, that is the name of this exercise. And a couple things with the bird dog. So number one, foot check. You always want to make sure that your toe is planted into the ground. This is going to help with stability. Also, it's just good form to have. So plant your toe. The opposite hand and the opposite foot are going to be moving in this. So what I would suggest is some people reach while they're doing this and fully extend their arm. I feel like I get a better ab workout if I have my hand to the side of my head. So that's kind of up to your discretion. However, my suggestion would be hand to the side of the head. Other than that, it's going to be a balance exercise as well as a core workout. So don't get frustrated. Reset yourself if you notice that you're kind of tipping over at any point. I would rather you have a good solid rep and have to reset 4 or 5 times as opposed to just rushing through it, being really off balance. You want to have good balance in this exercise, and you also want to try and touch your elbow to your knee. The closer your knee and your elbow get together, the more your core and your abs are going to be contracting. So you don't want to go halfway. You want to go as deep into that movement as possible. To finish up, we're going to be doing a walkout to a push-up. The reason that I only programmed one upper body exercise for this particular workout is just because it's a very taxing exercise on your upper body. And there's a bunch of different muscles that you can be hitting when you do this, depending on what kind of push-up you do, which is key. So to start off, pointer number 1, make sure that your hands are as close to under your shoulders as possible throughout the exercise. If you're super far forward with your hands or super far behind your shoulders, it's going to be a lot harder to balance, and it's going to be way more taxing on little muscles in your shoulders that just don't need to be taxed like that. A lot of ways it's like a pillar. So if a pillar is nice and straight and tall, it's going to be really strong. However, if a pillar is like this, like maybe this is your shoulder and the bottom of my wrist is my hand, that's going to be a lot less stable and strong, and it just makes the exercise harder when it doesn't need to be. So in addition to making sure that you have that hand-shoulder check, a couple different ways that you can hit different muscles in your body while doing this exercise is messing around with what push-up you do. So I would personally recommend doing a tricep push-up, which is when your hands are directly under your shoulders and your elbows are coming directly to your side. So you almost want to feel like your elbows are brushing against your rib cage. With that narrow stance, that's going to be tricep specific in your push-up. Or you can do a normal 45-degree push-up if you're trying to work more of your shoulders and your chest. If you do a wide stance, so hands outside of your shoulders, that one's going to take a little more time to do in your setup. However, if you are trying to work your chest specifically, that and the triangle push-up, those are going to be good ways that you can kind of mess around with what muscles you're working with in this exercise.